tattoo while I'm fucking you front to back. Doesn't say my name, but here's where I am. Baby, say my name like Beyonce.
PartyNextDoor and Drake recently dropped their collaboration album. Now this project has a lot of different songs, a lot of different vibes which stand out. They also have this classical dark R&B Toronto sound, and in today's video I'm gonna be breaking down exactly this. So if you want to learn how to make these dark Toronto R&B beats, make sure to watch until the end. So let's get into it. Now the key to making these type of beats, you don't want to add too many sounds, you just want to be strategic with the sounds you're picking. We're almost always going to start with a pad, so in this case I open up Analog Lab and I'm using my Illusions preset library, and I'm using this evolving pad which is called Beauty. By using one single note you can play complete chords, and what I did here was I laid down this 1-5 chord progression, just the root notes, and it sounds like this. On its own, the sound is still sounding pretty good, but to take it to the next level, I added this vintage chorus. When it comes to processing, what you want to do is you want to make sure that every single sound has its own place. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically just shaping the whole sound. So I'm taking out the high end, which I'm gonna leave for the vocals later on, and I'm also taking out the low end and these specific frequencies. So the bass is just gonna go here and the piano layer is gonna go here. For the second layer, I added this piano from Piano Tech 6, which is a very slept on plugin. Has a ton of different piano presets that you can mess around with, but in this case I'm using the Steinway D Jazz preset, and what I have here is basically the exact same chords which I played with the preset, but this time I have them played out on the piano. And you know, they might look complicated, but basically they're just 7 chords with a couple of inversions. As far as effects go on the piano, I have this elastic pitch V2, which basically just adds a little bit more texture to the piano. And what I did was I pitched it down 4 in the piano roll, and here I'm pitching it up 4 once again. After that, again, we have this vintage chorus. And the whole thing is, if you want to make your sounds sound well put together, what you want to be doing is using the exact same effects on every single layer. After that, I have this Valhalla vintage reverb, just to add a little bit more dimension to the piano. And the CQ, which once again is cutting out the low end for the bass, and it's cutting out the high end, so we have the vocals. Now, as you may have guessed, moving on to the third layer, we have this bass. Once again, I'm using Analog Lab, and I have this tonal contrast preset. And all I'm doing here is I'm just following the root notes of the chord progression. Now, when it comes to bass lines, this is important. So even if you have just 2 notes, by adding these spaces right here, you can instantly create this bounce. What is an R&B sample without a vocal? And even if you're like me and you can't sing, don't worry, I have the solution for you. If you watched my previous video, I went very in depth on how to use AI even without being able to sing. So go check that out if you haven't. But real quick, I'm also gonna break it down in this video. The first step is just to, sing the melody the best you can. Like, it doesn't have to be the perfect melody, it doesn't have to be hitting every single note. The whole idea is you just want to lay down the melody, like the phrase itself. Ooh, ooh. The next step is just using any type of auto-tune. Like, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be this specific one. The main thing you want to aim for is just tune the vocal enough where it doesn't sound way too robotic, but it's also everything is in key. So now we have this. Ooh, ooh. and you shouldn't worry about artifacts and just the vocal sounding weird. What I do next is I open up this website called Me. Come here to the presets. I always use this Nicole preset, but if you actually pay, you can use a ton of different ones. Right after that, you're gonna drag your sample here. You're just gonna pick the key which your vocal is in. You can play with the vibrato, you can play with the pitch, but I usually don't touch these settings. And finally, for this setting, you can put it anywhere from 30 to 50%. And after that, you're just gonna get this vocal, which sounds nothing like the original. From here on now, any effect is optional, but what I like to do is, and you can copy this, always make sure to add a compressor first. After that, I like adding this very tight delay. I use Echo Boy, and after that, I just add this reverb. To really take it to the next level and have it sounding like an actual sampled R&B vocal, I always start off with this EQ, which is cutting out all of the high-end information, just pushes it back in the background. After that, I come here and I add even more reverb. Then I add this delay, but I'm gonna show you this very cool trick which you can apply to the vocals. Basically, you want to automate the delay, so once the vocal fades out, this is where the big delay comes in. And finally, for the B section of the sample, I wanted to switch it up a little bit more, and I added the synth lead which I played on my analog synth. To replicate the sound, you can use any VST. All I did was I took two voices of basic sine waves and I layered them together. After that, I added a little bit of detune, and then I came to this portamento knob and I turned it up all the way up. So what this does is basically whenever you play a note, it slides into the next note. For effects, once again, I have this EQ, I added this distortion, and I added this reverb. Moving on to the drum sounds, when it comes to these R&B Toronto beats, you don't want to be doing too much with the hi-hats. You just want to create this little bounce. When it comes to the hi-hats and the open hats in these type of beats, they're usually pitched down a lot, and here you can see that the open hat is basically pitched down an octave. As for the kicks, you just want to add a very simple kick bounce, nothing too complicated. Since these type of beats use a lot of space and they have a lot of wide sounds, you can allow yourself to add some reverb. What I did here was I added this Valhalla vintage reverb on everything except the kick.
Staring at your tattoo while I'm fucking you from the back. Doesn't say my name, but here's where I'm. Baby, say my name like Beyonce. Tell me it's over while I'm fucking you passionately. While I'm fucking you fast asleep. Somehow I feel it has to be this way for me to see. What I had was meant for me.